Immersive technology is a growing sector of our economy in the UK. A recent report estimated that advances in virtual reality and augmented reality will add around 62 billion to the UK economy by the year 2030. And this kind of technology is not just being used to play games, it's being used to enhance training and education in schools and workplaces all over the country. We know that immersive technologies can create very powerful experiences for the user. Once you put on the headset, the real world disappears and you're immersed in a digital world. We also have what we call cave environments, where digital content is projected onto all four walls of a room and the user is effectively enclosed inside a digital world. But even if you're just playing a game on your smartphone, this kind of digital content that is immersive has a way of commanding your attention and taking you away from the real world. Given the power of immersive technology to engage human attention and engage human emotions, it's important to understand the experiences of the user. And that's where we come in. So now we're here in the lab in the School of Psychology at Liverpool John Moores University, where we've been working with a local SME called CGA Simulation, who are based up at Toxteth. And we've been working with them on a product called Virtual Driving School. Now, as the name suggests, the idea behind this product is to allow people to learn how to drive in a virtual digital environment. And that's good for at least two reasons. It saves the cost and the time to practice on the real road. And also, because it's a simulated world and it isn't real, it allows us to expose learners to situations that would be unsafe for them to encounter on the real road, such as a hazard perception scenario where a car may pull across your path when pulling out at a junction. Now, when this product was in development, we worked with CGA Simulation to develop a number of hazard perception scenarios. So these are the same as the hazard perception scenarios that are used in the British driving test. And once we'd constructed those scenarios and made a prototype version of the software, we brought it into the university and we set it up in the foyers of one of our main buildings. And we had 80 or so of our students test the system using a virtual reality system. And what we found was that after the students had been through the scenario, they felt that they had a greater awareness of danger and a greater awareness of risk after experiencing the virtual environment. So we also work with the same company, CGA Simulation, on a different project to assess the mental workload of emergency planners during an emergency incident such as a terrorist attack. Now, this project was funded by the Ministry of Defence via the Defence Science Technology Laboratory. And CGA used their expertise in order to construct a simulation of a fire and a terrorist attack at a football stadium that could be viewed on security cameras and allowed us to access other sorts of simulated information such as 999 calls to the police. The emergency planner must coordinate all the other services that are called upon, from fire services to police, during some kind of an emergency incident. And what that means is that these people are making decisions under high levels of uncertainty, and they're also having to assimilate a lot of information from different sources. Okay, so we work with the company on this particular project to assess the level of mental workload that was experienced by people when they were exposed to these simulated emergency scenarios. Now, as the name suggests, when you're measuring mental workload, you're measuring literally how much people are having to think about and react to and make decisions about. So what we do here in the School of Psychology is that we measure the activity of the human brain in order to do that. In this case, we use a technique called functional near-infrared spectrography, or FNIRS for short. Now, this is an optical technique where we send infrared light into the upper area of the cortex in order to assess different levels of activation in different parts of the brain. And so by measuring those areas of the brain that are associated with attentional regulation and the control of decision making, we were able to objectively quantify the level of mental workload experienced by emergency planners. And that's important so we can understand when an emergency planner is experiencing information overload, because when people have high levels of information, they tend to make mistakes. A different aspect of our work on immersive technologies was a collaboration with a company based in Southport called Immersive Interactive. Immersive Interactive developed something called cave technologies. So this is where you have a room where you project digitally onto the walls and ceilings in order to create different kinds of what we call mixed reality experiences. Now this is popular for professional training, but it's also becoming an increasingly popular technique in primary and secondary school education. Now the advantage for a school of having an immersive room is that if you were teaching history, for example, rather than having children look at books to learn about Iron Age Britain, we can create a digital representation of Iron Age Britain for them to walk into and explore. So this project with Immersive Interactive was the collaboration between the School of Psychology and the School of Computer Science and Mathematics at our university. And the purpose of the project was to allow the company to explore new applications and possibly new markets for their product. With funding from Innovation UK, the university was able to employ a person who then went and worked in the company, and that is one mechanism that allows us to transfer our expertise from the university and out into businesses in the real world. So working with the company, we developed an escape room scenario where children from a school were able to come into the environment and work together to solve different problems and achieve different goals. We built a working prototype of the kind of technology which may be common in our schools in 5 to 10 years' time. We were able to take it out into a local school and were able to test it with real students at that school. And the advantage of that is that it allows the company to understand the customer's needs before the product hits the market. Another part of our research is how we help companies understand user experience. Emotions are an important component of the user experience. So how do we go about measuring different emotions? Well, there's a number of different things that you can do, and one particular technique that we've used a lot in the School of Psychology is where we measure the electrical activity of the muscles of the face. So for example, you have a muscle on your brow, which is called the corrugator, and you use it when you frown. But if something makes you unhappy, that muscle will fire, even if people can't see it on your face. For this particular project, we worked with a company called MTech, who are developing sensors that capture the muscular activity of the face and are also built into VR headsets, so they can be used in combination with immersive environments. So we used prototypes of the system that they developed at MTech in order to study emotions in virtual reality. And on the basis of those experiences, we were able to feed back to the company about their product.